Week 11 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few wide receivers. I have his sleepers this week. The first guy, Jalen Guyton, a Los Angeles Chargers. So Jalen Guyton finally had a nice game last week, coming off a torn ACL last season. So right now, with a lot of injuries on this offense, Mike Williams, we know, got hurt early in the season, out for the year with the ACL. A few weeks ago, Joshua Palmer landed on injured reserve, and pretty much Guyton stepped into that number 3-4 role at the wide receiver position behind Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson. So Guyton last week, 4 catches, 41 yards and a touchdown versus the Lions in that great shootout game, 41-38. Tough loss for the Chargers. Now this week they go to the Green Bay Packers. They're pretty good versus the pass this season in wide receivers. But I think Justin Herbert, he needs that deep threat obviously in the lineup. And Jalen Guyton's been that guy over the last few seasons. Before he went out with the torn ACLs, I think Jalen Guyton has boom or bust potential weekly for this Charger team. Obviously, it's a high-powered offense. Kellen Moore likes throwing that football down the field for his schemes. We saw it last season with the Dallas Cowboys as the coordinator, and we've seen it this season here with the Los Angeles Chargers, trying to get big chunk plays and the ball down the field, taking deep shots. Herbert, one of the better arms in the league. Jalen Guyton, like I said, he was a nice deep threat the last few seasons before going down. And this week at Green Bay, it wouldn't be surprising to me if he catches a 30, 40-yard touchdown in this game as a sleeper option, available in 96% of fantasy leagues. Next wide receiver is Kyle Phillips of the Tennessee Titans. So Phillips, he's been carving out some decent numbers the last few weeks since Will Levis has been inserted into the starting lineup. Week 9 at Pittsburgh, 4 catches, 68 yards. And Week 10 at Tampa Bay Bucks, 3 catches, 61 yards. So this week he had a decent matchup at the Jacksonville Jaguars that give up the 13th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. So Phillips, we know he's a slot-type receiver, underneath type of route guy as well. But also over the top, he could trick you with sneaky speed, is Kyle Phillips. So he's bounced around the league over the last few seasons, but this Tennessee Titan team's looking for someone besides DeAndre Hopkins or Derrick Henry to emerge in this offense and start making plays and get things going. We know this Tennessee offensive line, obviously one of the worst in the league, but Kyle Phillips is a wide receiver that can make some plays and has good hands. So this week, while he's available in 99% of fantasy leagues and has a matchup where they're most likely going to be trailing, I think he could put in some sleeper PPR numbers. And the third and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper is MLE Hardman of the Kansas City Chiefs. So this Chief team needs someone to step up consistently at the wide receiver position. I know Rashee Rice has had some decent games this season, but besides him, Sky Moore hasn't done much. Kadarius Toney hasn't done much. Valdes-Scantling, 1 or 2 good games he's had all season. And they traded for Hardman towards the deadline from the New York Jets. So MLE Hardman, the first few games back with the Chiefs, obviously nothing to look at. Week 7 versus the Chargers, a catch, 6 yards. Week 8 at the Denver Broncos, 2 catches, 13 yards, a fumble loss. And Week 9 before the bye, 3 catches, 10 yards. So this week here, Super Bowl rematch, Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. Eagles give up the most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. I think MLE Hardman, to get back up to snuff with the playbook after the bye week, he's going to be more involved in this Kansas City offense once again. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if he pops off a deep ball or 2 in this game. And he's available right now in 95% of fantasy leagues. That's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.